Case 2. M.R., 10.5 years old, Jewish, from an intelligent family. Heredity. Father is a doctor, a capable scientist, physically healthy, absent-minded, irritable, somewhat eccentric, who always had something about him that was difficult to understand, as his wife remarked. Grandfather on his father's side died of a heart defect. Uncle on the paternal side was epileptic. Another uncle had a fiery temperament, a somewhat peculiar way of thinking, and frequently acted impulsively. Mother 34 years old, healthy. The grandfather on the mother's side became mentally ill at the age of 35. Schizophrenia. A case of taking one's own life in the grandfather's collateral line. Grandmother suffered from heart disease and died of apoplexy. On the grandmother's collateral side, there is a case of mental illness, schizophrenia, and 2 cases of taking one's own life. An uncle on the maternal side has suffered since age 35 from a mental illness diagnosed as cyclothymia. During symptom-free intervals, he is a gentle, spineless, yet fully capable of working man who, however, falls into a state of extraordinary agitation whenever he is required to make a decision. The boy is the first child in the family. Pregnancy and birth normal. Physical development regular. Past illnesses: diphtheria, measles, pneumonia. The economic conditions were satisfactory. As a child, was healthy and sensible. He learned to read at the age of 5 and loved reading everything that fell into his hands. At the age of 8, he was sent to the Waldschule, where he proved to be a difficult child. He did not submit to the house rules, disrupted the work of the entire class, and committed silly, impulsive acts. Once he took offense at something a boy did and thereupon pushed him down into the pond. They could not cope with him at school and transferred him in 1922 to the therapeutic school of our clinic. At the time, his mother characterized him as sluggish, apathetic, easily influenced by the will of others, and incapable of systematic work. Status: exceeds the norms for his age in terms of body length and weight. Nutritional status satisfactory. Physique approaching the asthenic type. Dysplastic. Long, thin, awkwardly hanging arms. An abnormal, elongated rib cage. A stooped posture. And an oblong face with a prominent, thick, and broad nose and a large mouth. Slight maxillary prognathism. Flabby musculature. The outlines of the muscles are undefined. Fine, smooth skin. Hands and feet cyanotic, clammy, and cold, often sweating. Head hair dark, coarse, dense, terminal hairs absent. Enlarged cervical and submaxillary lymph nodes. Thyroid normal. The genital organ is normal. No deviations from the norm regarding the internal organs. Nervous system. Cranial nerves normal. Pupils even, light-dependent reactions somewhat sluggish. Tendon reflexes slightly brisk. Cutaneous reflexes lively. Mucosal reflexes normal. Pathological reflexes are absent. Aschner's sign positive. Sensitivity normal. Hearing slightly diminished. Face normal. Active movements are angular, clumsy, and jerky. He struggles with fine and differentiated movements, writes poorly, and makes no progress in drawing. Retardation, according to Dr. Ozoretsky's scale, 2.5 years. Many superfluous movements, synkinesias. A limp, awkward, loose gait. Taking steps that are now too large, now too small. Posture limp. A certain hypotonia of the joints. Flaccid, almost mask-like facial expressions that do not always correspond to emotional impulses. A certain paramimia. When laughing, the facial expression is not amusing, but rather sadly resigned. A voice with a nasal undertone. Laboratory examinations. Wassermann reaction, negative. Abderhalden reaction, with tests and thyroid antigen, negative. Examination of the autonomic nervous system revealed mild vagatonia. Blood test. The blood count shows no deviations from the norm. Psychic state. Upon his arrival, he stands out due to his clumsiness and awkwardness, and immediately becomes the target of general mockery among the other children. He behaves foolishly, makes grimaces, and blurts out various swear words. He refers to himself as a billy goat and to other children as cows and rams, and acts accordingly, shaking his head, pretending to butt with his horns, and so on. Impulsive in his actions. He would kick a schoolmate and start hitting him. Completely absurd actions were also observed. such as climbing onto the window of the upstairs latrine and urinating from there onto the dining table standing on the ground below. When asked about the motives for his action, he replied, "I don't know. I felt such a strong urge that I didn't think about it." He holds forth at great length, is repetitive in his talk, and always tells the same stories about the War of 1812. There is an element of compulsion in the process of storytelling. If interrupted, the storyteller finds no peace. He waits for a convenient moment, and begins his account all over again, starting from the minutest details. The prevailing mood is apathetic, showing no interest in anything, remaining passive during games, deferring to others, and playing without soul, devoid of any emotional charge. He is reluctant to work in class, and has no interest in either the work or its results. He does not bring a task he has started to completion. Its execution proceeds sluggishly, jerkily, and in a disorganized manner. He is uncooperative during the examination, sluggish, apathetic. He speaks about himself in a monotonous voice. "I have always been somewhat clumsy. I did not take part in outdoor games. I only played games that one can play without companions." With the same calmness, and without changing the tone of his voice, he goes on to say that he had been expelled from school. "I was sillier than anyone else, played the fool, laughed a lot, and called the teacher a mare." He has nothing to report regarding phobias. As for obsessive phenomena, he merely says that some word or other often keeps turning over in his mind and won't let him rest. When asked what interests him most, he answers immediately, "What I like most is books." In conversation, he immediately grasps the essence of the question raised. He formulates his thoughts correctly, and logical operations come easily to him. A capacity for abstract thinking is present. However, a tendency toward brooding and over-reasoning can also be observed. Associations logical and coordinated. Following the examination in the psychological laboratory, his intellect exceeds the norm, by 4 years according to Binet, while the Rossalimo method shows superior performance across the board. According to the daily logs, the course of this case unfolded as follows. The first 2 or 3 months showed no noticeable changes. Adapts very slowly to the surroundings, and only gradually integrates into the shared life of the children. Towards the end of his first year at the school, he becomes calmer, begins to comply with the house rules, behaves in a disciplined manner during classwork, takes an interest in the work, and makes good progress. There are far fewer unexpected outbursts during his free time. Just like in the past, he is not very sociable and keeps his distance from the children. However, he became significantly livelier, participates in children's theater, complies with the institution's rules, is somewhat irritable, but evidently makes an effort to control himself, has become less clumsy, takes part in gymnastic exercises and needlework. Summary. From early childhood on, a sluggish, clumsy, genderless child, lonely in the world of children, silly behavior, puerile manner, strange impulsive actions, above normal intellect with a tendency towards abstract thinking, good productivity in the schoolwork, an intensive interest in books. Somatic characteristics: body build, asthenic with dysplastic features, nervous system, markedly pronounced motor impairment, clumsy gait, slumping posture, joint hypotonia, slack and almost mask-like facial expression, nasal speech. Progression: a dramatic improvement has occurred over the last 2 years. Diagnosis: psychopathic personality, schizoid, eccentric.